And, I know that things are getting better because just like little mushrooms, for sale signs are popping up all over the place where I live in West St. Louis County. This is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. It is a very good thing. It's keeping us extremely busy, and it's a little frustrating for buyers out there right now. Mm-hmm. It's still very much a seller's market. So
that's a good thing, though.
Yeah. So
go back 8 years.
I know, exactly.
It was brutal. I mean, it was really brutal.
Brutal.
When you say it's a seller's market, does this mean if you're wanting to buy, that if you see a sign go up, you better move fast, or your real estate agent's going to have to move fast?
Yes, you actually need to have a real estate agent already at work for you, because a lot of times we're finding these properties before they even make it to the mainstream. So you're already behind the 8 ball when you're trying to do this for yourself. So that's kind of our topic today, is home buying myths that you want to avoid. And one of the big first ones is your first step is looking for a house, kind of surfing the internet, going out, hitting open houses, things like that. And really your first step should be getting with a realtor, sitting down and finding out what exactly you are looking for, what exactly you can afford. That's another thing, is people get on and start looking at stuff before they really realize what payment they need to be at. That all determines what loans they're going to be in, what's their credit score. A lot of things factor into that. So the very first step is really sitting down with us, letting us talk about your wish list, kind of wrangling you into where you need to be looking, because you're going to get your heart set on something that you probably can't get. So that's step number one. Number two is realizing that you don't really have to have 20% down. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. That's still a crazy myth out there from a long time ago, that you have to have a 20% down payment. You can get into loans right now as little as 3.5%, and there's some that's 0% down depending on your situation. You can get into loans with not the most stellar credit score. So FHA loans you can qualify under a 600 credit score. Another thing that people don't understand is, well, all I really need is my down payment. That's all my out-of-pocket cost to buy a house. And that's absolutely not true. There are closing costs, escrows that you have to set up for your homeowner's insurance, taxes, things like that.
Do you think a lot of people also hope to rely on the seller to cover the closing costs?
Oh, 100%. We do that all the time. If you're short on cash, we try to funnel what you have into your down payment, because a down payment can't be financed, but closing costs can. So basically with closing costs, you can take that 3 or 6%, that you're going to need for closing cost, and put that on top of what you offer for a house. And then that just increases your mortgage by that much more. So in essence, you're paying for that over the life of the loan, but it's not money that's out of pocket to you.
Right.
But sometimes we get into these situations where we're in bidding wars on a ton of the houses right now. And that might not be a factor that the seller really wants to deal with. So if you cannot come up with the closing cost and you're in competition, there's a good chance that you're not going to be the contract that gets picked. And then there's a whole other piece to that people don't understand is, well, what does the seller care if I'm paying more for their house just to turn around and get my closing cost credit back? What difference does it make to them? Well, the difference comes in with the appraisal process. So, we had one this week where we knew we were pushing the market on this house. There was really no comps in the neighborhood that have sold for this high, but we know what the market is, so we know buyers will pay it. But then to pad another $6,000 on top of the house to allow the seller to pay the credit back to the buyer now starts to put us in that danger zone of, biting our fingernails going, can we get it to appraise for the higher price? Because that's what it would have to appraise for.
Are you finding that sellers are more willing to work with buyers now, even though the market is that hot? And has there been a change in that over the past couple of years?
Yeah, over the past couple of years, you'd do anything to get a good contract. If you had to take a home sale contingency, if you weren't getting offers, you'd consider that if the house was a reasonably priced house that goes in an area that goes quickly. Or you wouldn't blink at them writing in closing costs as long as that appraisal wasn't an issue. But now sellers are choosy. I mean, you've got to come in with really strong offers. And if you're out there trying to do this on your own, we just had one where a person didn't want to use a realtor, and I'm representing the sellers. Well, she didn't have a chance because she didn't know what she was doing. She wrote the contract completely wrong. She put in a bunch of contingencies that shouldn't have been there. So we're not going to go in that direction.
And
so
sellers really don't want to.
no,
go.
they have their choice right now.
Right.
You know, we had another buyer that this is another thing that buyers are having some trouble with right now is, well, I feel like we're overpaying for the house because we paid over list. Well, in reality, you're paying market price. So maybe that seller really could have asked a little higher for that house if 10 people gave them offers and everybody was going over list price. Are you really overpaying for the house? Maybe in 10 years you might be able to say that, but in this particular market right now, you're not. You're paying fair market value because other buyers are willing to pay it or more.
This is Kathy Helbig, who's the owner of the Kathy Helbig Group, joining us here in the Brentwood studios of KTRS. What is moving more right now? Houses, condos? What's the hot property? Is it primarily houses that you're seeing the most action on?
Single family homes are always the highest seller, but there's definitely the condo market is coming back for sure. There was a big problem with the condo market when the real estate market crashed because everybody lost their FHA approvals and that type of thing. So usually somebody buying in a condo is in a little bit lower price point, unless you're talking about luxury condos. And a lot of times those are FHA and government assisted loans that they're getting, and right away that market just locked up because all those complexes lost their rights.
Isn't this an incredibly busy time, too, because school is going to be ending up here eventually in the next month or so? Families, a lot of times, this is the time for them to move, whether in city or their company is transferring them. So it would seem to me the next couple of months are going to be prime time for you and others.
It's right now, like getting your house up, because there's a whole strategy now with this coming soon program thing, which, you know, we don't have time to get into it today, but if you're thinking about putting your house on the market, call me, because this strategy is really working, and it's almost like a subculture for another type of MLS listing that not everybody has access to, and we need to get this going before you go on the market. So now is the time.
You found that coming soon, it sells before it's even on the market.
It can, and there's also reasons why you don't want to let people in during your coming soon period, because everybody's going to beg you to see it early, but there's a strategy behind all of this. So again, call us to talk about it, because we get top dollar when we do it this certain way.
And if people want to reach out and get in communication with you, how do they do it?
Call us at 314-276-SOLD or KathyHelbiggroup.com.
Very good. Thanks so much for dropping by this morning. Have a great day. Kathy Helbig, the owner of the Kathy Helbig Group, joining us here on the Big 550 KTRS. It is 7:42.